Femi was a boy who lived in his thoughts. He was always quiet, always observing. The bustling marketplace, the lively schoolyard, they all felt too loud for Femi. He preferred the comfort of his room, surrounded by books and his imagination. School was a challenge for Femi. He was bright, his mind sharp and quick, but the thought of raising his hand in class filled him with dread. The words would form in his mind, clear and well formed, but his voice would fail him. His family loved him dearly. They knew Femi was shy, a little withdrawn. His mother would often say, "Femi, my son, you have so much to offer the world." But her words, though filled with love, did little to ease his shyness. Every day, Femi walked through the school gates, feeling invisible. The other students, loud and confident, seemed so sure of themselves. They would chat easily, laugh freely, and Femi would watch them, longing to join in, but held back by his own fears. He excelled in his studies. His notebooks were filled with neat handwriting, every answer precise. His teachers recognized his potential. Femi, his English teacher, Mr. Adebayo, once said, "You write with such insight. You should share your thoughts more in class." A wave of heat crept up Femi's neck at Mr. Adebayo's words. He mumbled a thank you, his heart pounding in his chest. The opportunity to impress was there, but his shyness held him captive. The school held an annual talent show. It was a grand event, the highlight of the school year. Students showcased their skills, singing, dancing, reciting poetry. Femi watched from the audience, his stomach twisting with a mix of envy and longing. He loved poetry. Words were his refuge, his way of expressing the emotions he couldn't speak aloud. He had even written a poem, a beautiful piece about the resilience of the human spirit. It was a poem worthy of applause, a poem that could touch hearts. But as Femi watched his classmates perform, his grip on the poem in his pocket tightened. The fear was a suffocating blanket, smothering the flicker of hope that dared to ignite within him. The days turned into weeks, each one a missed opportunity for Femi to break free from his shell. He watched as life moved on around him, feeling like a spectator in his own story. The world seemed to be a stage where everyone else played their parts effortlessly, while he remained stuck in the wings, unable to step into the spotlight. He would often replay moments in his head, conversations he could have had, jokes he could have made. Each missed chance weighed heavily on his mind, a constant reminder of his silence. The words were there, perfectly formed and ready, but they never made it past his lips. The words would flow effortlessly in his mind, but the act of speaking them aloud seemed an insurmountable hurdle. It was as if an invisible barrier stood between his thoughts and his voice, a barrier he couldn't break through, no matter how hard he tried. One afternoon, Mr. Adebayo announced a debate competition. The announcement echoed in Femi's ears, stirring something deep within him. It was an opportunity, a chance to finally let his voice be heard. It was an inter-school competition, a chance to represent their school against others in the district. The excitement was palpable, the air buzzing with anticipation as students discussed the upcoming event. Femi's heart skipped a beat. The thought of standing in front of an audience, presenting his arguments, both thrilled and terrified him. It was a dream he had always harbored, but one he never dared to pursue. He loved the art of debate, the way arguments were constructed, the power of persuasion. He admired those who could speak with confidence and conviction, wishing he could be one of them. He saw his classmates' eyes light up with excitement, their hands shooting up to volunteer. The energy was infectious, and for a moment, Femi felt a spark of courage. Femi's hand twitched, his fingers longing to join the others. He could feel the desire to participate welling up inside him, pushing him to take a leap of faith. But the weight of his shyness held him back. His hand falling back onto the desk, defeated. The moment passed, and with it, his chance to step forward. Femi sat there, feeling the familiar sting of regret, wondering if he would ever find the strength to let his voice be heard. One day a new student arrived. Her name was Abeni, and she was a whirlwind of energy and confidence. Unlike Femi, she wasn't afraid to speak her mind. She was a breath of fresh air, and soon she befriended Femi. Abeni saw something special in Femi, a spark hidden beneath his quiet demeanor. She would often engage him in conversations, drawing him out of his shell. She encouraged him to participate in class, gently nudging him to find his voice. "Femi, you are brilliant," Abeni said one day after class. "You have so much to say. Don't let fear silence you." Her words struck a chord within Femi. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could overcome his shyness. The annual inter-house sports competition was fast approaching. It was another event that filled Femi with trepidation. He wasn't particularly athletic and always felt out of place amidst the energy and excitement. But this year was different. Abeni had convinced Femi to participate in the 100-meter race. "Just try it," she urged, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. "You might surprise yourself." Standing at the starting line, Femi's heart pounded in his chest. He could hear the crowd cheering, and for a moment, the familiar wave of panic threatened to engulf him. But then he looked at Abeni, who gave him a reassuring nod. And in that moment, Femi decided to run, not just for himself, but for the voice that had been silenced for far too long. To everyone's surprise, Femi won the race. He wasn't the fastest runner, but his determination was evident in every stride. Crossing the finish line, he felt a surge of pride wash over him. He had faced his fear and emerged victorious. The victory was a turning point for Femi. It was a small victory, but it ignited a fire within him. He realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And with each step he took outside his comfort zone, his confidence grew. He started participating in class, his contributions insightful and thought-provoking. He even volunteered to read his poem at the next school assembly. His voice, once hesitant and low, was now clear and resonant, filled with the quiet strength he had discovered within himself. The day of the school assembly arrived, and Femi stood backstage, his heart pounding. He could hear the murmur of the crowd, the shuffling of feet, and the occasional burst of laughter. The atmosphere was electric, filled with anticipation and excitement. This time, the fear was different. It wasn't the kind of fear that made him want to run and hide. It was a fear that made him feel alive, a fear that challenged him to rise above his insecurities. It wasn't the crippling fear that paralyzed him, it was the exhilarating fear of pushing beyond his limits, of sharing his gift with the world. He took a deep breath, feeling the air fill his lungs, and steadied himself. As he walked onto the stage, he saw Abeni and Mr. Adebayo in the audience, their faces beaming with pride. The support gave him strength, a reminder that he wasn't alone in this journey. And as he began to recite his poem, the words flowed effortlessly from his lips, carrying his emotions, his dreams, his newfound confidence. Each line was a testament to his growth, a reflection of his inner strength. The silence in the auditorium was deafening as Femi finished his poem. It was a silence filled with awe and admiration, a silence that spoke louder than words. Then a wave of applause erupted, washing over him like a warm embrace. The sound of clapping hands and cheering voices filled the hall, a symphony of approval and encouragement. In that moment, Femi knew he had found his voice, a voice that had the power to move, to inspire, to make a difference. He realized that this was just the beginning of his journey, a journey where his words could touch hearts and change lives. Femi's transformation was remarkable. It was a journey that took time, patience, and a lot of inner strength. He wasn't the same shy, withdrawn boy who had once blended into the background. The boy who used to avoid eye contact and kept to himself had now become someone entirely different. He had embraced his uniqueness, his quiet strength, and used it to overcome his challenges. Femi discovered that his differences were his strengths, and he began to see the world through a new lens. He continued to excel in his studies, but now he participated actively in class, engaging in lively debates and discussions. His voice, once a whisper, now carried weight and confidence. He joined the school's debate team, his sharp wit and well-reasoned arguments making him a formidable opponent. His peers began to look up to him, and he became a source of inspiration. Life had thrown him a curveball, but Femi had caught it and emerged stronger. He learned to navigate through life's challenges with resilience and grace. He had learned that true strength lay not in hiding from our fears, but in confronting them head-on. Each challenge he faced became a stepping stone to his personal growth. And as he walked through the school gates each day, he did so with his head held high, his heart filled with gratitude for the journey that had led him to find his voice, his confidence, his triumph. Femi's story is a testament to the power of perseverance and the beauty of embracing one's true self.